So my thought was with Lonzo. I didn't like when I heard around the trade deadline. I forget how it happened, but I tweeted and I remember I got a lot of blowback that I did not like that the Bulls didn't trade him at the deadline. And I felt like you worked this hard for over 2 years to get him back on the floor, to make him salvageable. And now that you are trying to get assets for your next good team, hopefully down the road, you needed to get a draft pick for him so at least you could take a swing with another player because he was never going to be what you expected him to be in a Bulls uniform.
Right.
He just was never going to be. The next thing you knew, you'd sign him to this 2-year deal, $10 million per year, and he'd get hurt. And sure enough, he got hurt soon after with a wrist injury. I will give the Bulls credit for this because I have read some stuff where the reason why they signed him, I think he was signed for a $20 million deal per year when he originally signed with the Bulls, that they signed him with the plan to trade him. That I have blamed the Bulls for not having a plan, and they don't. They don't have a big picture plan. But at least there was a method to the madness with Lonzo Ball where there was interest. They said we'd sign him to a contract that would be palpable for other teams, and they found a team in Cleveland who needed him to play this role as a backup point guard and a veteran guy who can make them go. And they got a guy who is still young, was a top 5 draft pick in Isaac Okoro, who definitely plays defense, something they don't have a lot of, and maybe has a ceiling of some upside with offense if he gets in the right system. Now, what they're going to do or where he's going to take them or the grand plan of just finding all these players who were failures on their first team and were very highly drafted. Josh Giddey last year.
Yep.
Young, talented, fell out of favor on a playoff team and out of their rotation for last playoffs.
But has some NBA experience on their resume.
Yes.
That's kind of the guy they're after right now.
Okoro is basically Patrick Williams except on another team.
Right.
You know, and they didn't, instead of signing him to a $90 million deal, Cleveland, I think, signed him to a 3-year, $33 million deal, so the Bulls are basically playing like 11 per year. So he's still young, and they got something for Lonzo. The stat that's going around is laughable, where the Bulls front office have taken Lonzo, who they gave up a first-round pick for. They tampered to get him. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Alex Caruso, and they netted 1 first-round pick for all 4 of those players. And the 1 first-round pick that they did get that was for Zach was their own first-round pick. So
right.
They literally traded for their own pick, which never happens to begin with. They didn't acquire one of another team's first-round pick for any of the core of their last team. That doesn't mean that the Isaac Okoro deal is bad. These people who are running the Bulls are bad. So in the grand plan, I don't believe they're going anywhere. But I don't mind in the short zoom-in approach what they did. Do you agree or disagree with my stance?
I just wish they had. I wish they had draft picks. They love to say we're a team in transition. Oh, stop it. You're a rebuilding team. Like, that's where you are. And you do that through draft picks. And I just was, I was a little uncomfortable with Eversley talking so highly of their quote-unquote internal development plan because Matas Buzelis had a great second half of his rookie year. And they're like, we believe this is how we're going to develop our next superstar. And I just don't trust that. I don't trust it.
Well, why would you? Because
I just
Patrick
feel like,
Williams hasn't developed.
Correct.
Dalen Terry hasn't developed.
And they were asked about what did they need? A new shooting. I meant to re-listen to this morning before I got in here, but he was asked about hiring a replacement shooting coach or something to that effect. And they promoted from within, like quietly. They didn't bring in somebody special. They just kind of went status quo. And I feel like that's what the Bulls have done, and that's why they've been in this predicament.
So they gave the job a couple years ago to Peter Patton, who played at DePaul.
Right.
Who played high school ball at Loyola, a local kid who was with Dallas and really did some good things in Dallas. He had a falling out with Nico Harrison there in that front office, and the Bulls brought him in a couple years ago. They did add some pretty good stuff to development, and I believe he took on the role of he was ahead of their player development. He was more than just their shooting coach. And then they just didn't renew his contract after finally having success, which was mind-blowing. And then, like you said, they hired from within instead of just keeping the guy who already they had success with. So every time they do take a little step forward, they do take 5 steps back.
Yeah, they do.
But if I'm zooming in, I don't hate the Lonzo deal. I hate, like you said, that they don't have picks. I hate that they don't really have a true plan of how to pick a lane, whether they're truly rebuilding or they're trying to compete while retooling, which I don't feel really works in the NBA.
Well, and as Peggy and I were talking about on Saturday, like the problem is that you see an Indiana team that went to all the way to Game 7 of the finals without. Tyrese Halliburton, and they have some really good players, but it could have been anybody who could have beaten them, right? And that's what Eversley pointed out. He said, that's what I take from Indiana is that anybody can challenge you, and it can be anybody's night. All right, that is not consistent. That's not consistent in the NBA. That isn't sustainable. That's a flash in the pan. That's not what you're trying to build.
Why should I believe in them, like I would say to Mark if we had him on, if the Bulls would ever respond to even a request? They've never said yes to one of our requests in all the years. Even when AK was getting good pub the first year and we would reach out, nothing.
Wow.
Crickets.
They technically never say no either. They just don't reply.
They don't reply. They don't even reply.
Wow.
And I'll say that there were many good things that Pax did. The one thing, too, like if I texted Pax, he would come on. There would be times he'd get super angry at me, but he'd always come on and let the Bulls fans know. Because you're not really doing me any favors or Waddle. You're doing the fan base favors. But just opening a window so they can see what's really going on in the organization.
How do you feel about how closed off they are to the details of these contract extensions?
I don't understand it. Okay,
I don't either.
So they say their policy, and Mark Eversley said their policy is to never publicize contract extensions because that's how it was even before that. I don't understand, Dionne. If you sign a guy to a contract extension, it means you like them, correct?
Right. So why so secretive about it?
So why are you secretive about what you feel is the right plan? If you feel that the plan is right to re-sign Eversley and AK and Billy, why not? You don't have to tell us it's a 5-year deal. You don't have to tell us that he's making $2 million per year or $5 million per year, $7 million per year. But I don't understand if you're going to come out and say, we have just signed Montez Sweat after trading for him to a 4-year deal. They never tell you the terms.
Right.
That's what the reporters find out. But they do tell you we have re-signed Montez Sweat. Why wouldn't you publicize our general manager and VP?
I don't know.
Unless you feel like you have to hide something.
Correct.
And why, if you feel like you have to hide it, it probably wasn't the right move to begin with.
Well, that's right. That's it. Is they don't want to open themselves up to the criticism of re-signing guys that have literally done nothing to help you win.
I feel like it's a confidence thing. I feel like when you have a confident group who are good at their jobs, they are not wavered by sharing that information.
Right.
When you have
what are they afraid of?
When you have an insecure group who is not confident in what they do, this is where you get hidden stuff. Because they don't even trust themselves.
So if we don't tell you, we're not opening up ourselves to criticism.
That's what they think.
That's what they think.
But
that only raises the level of criticism because you're not winning. Like no one is in my opinion earning a contract extension at this point. No one is.
Like I forgot who said it. Was it Collie or someone was talking, or no, it was Hoodie talking about the question from Collie and some of the others about how Eversley is up there reading from a statement.
Right.
I know
about your draft pick.
Like you believe in it.
Right.
You're behind it. Explain in your best words. Speak.
You shouldn't have had
why you did this and why you think it's going to work. But they're not even confident enough in their ability to just share in a conversation of what they do.
Right. It's weird. He had to read about, basically reading the draft profile of Noah Essengay. That's what he did on Wednesday night. He read it to us. And then he took off his reading glasses and said, we're really excited. I mean, that's well, then why did you just say that?
No, the good ones don't do that.
Show?
The good ones don't do that.
Of course course not.
And if you don't do it that way, if you're Belichick, win like Belichick.
Right.
Win
Right.
like those guys.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Let me take some of these calls. See Red Fred, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Fred?
Hey, Fred.
Oh, how you doing, guys? Dionne, it's great to talk to you. You sound like Sonny and Cher. You guys are awesome.
Bless.
That's such an old reference.
So
And plus, Sonny's dead, too. So thanks for that.
Sorry. Good point. I should have said that. My bad. Hey, I did want to share with you guys, first of all, this idea that the story of Lonzo Ball is like so much better than the reality. Lonzo Ball has not played in a post-All-Star game, regular season game since 2001. That's 4 full seasons. He shot 36% from the field last year in his 35 games, 34% from three. And then again, he missed the rest of the season for the 4th year in a row. This idea that the Bulls would demand a treasure trove of assets for Lonzo Ball is insane, considering that, again, from the All-Star break on, he missed the whole year. I'm critical of Acme. I'm very critical of him, but we can't be so reflexively negative on these guys that we fail to recognize how good this move was. This was a brilliant move. Isaac Okoro is 24 years old. He's uber athletic wing who J.B. Bickerstaff a year ago, who's now the current Pistons coach, called him 1 year ago the best perimeter defender in the league, hands down, right after he held that Anthony Edwards' 7-25 shooting. He's also offensively, he's one of the best in the league in terms of transition points per possession. So Cleveland was 29th in pace 2 years ago. They were still nowhere near the Bulls last year. This guy is going to be awesome in our system offensively and defensively. There's no one on the team even close to him defensively. He's going to be he's going to have the same kind of impact that Caruso did. And for people to be upset about it just because they don't know him or they look at the stats and are like, what is it with this guy? It's crazy. This was an incredible move, and I guarantee you're going to love him. What say you?
All right, well,
That's a good call.
While he didn't rip the move, I'm not going to say it's an incredible move or an outstanding move. And where I of course disagree, as always, with C. Red Fred, is when he makes the comparison to Caruso. Mm-hmm. Cleveland was on a run as the best team in the East, and he was out of the playoff rotation. Mm-hmm. He didn't get any minutes.
Right, no.
Alex Caruso with the Lakers was one of the reasons why they won a championship. Mm-hmm. He was a vital part to their rotation. So I don't like, and then sure enough, he goes, oh, he has that impact with the Bulls. He has that impact with Oklahoma City. I still feel while it isn't a bad move and he can improve, to give him the Alex Caruso love, a guy who was won 2 titles and has been an impactful player since he got in the league, is drinking the red Kool-Aid like C. Red Fred normally does.
I mean, I hope that Fred is correct. I hope that, and I think maybe some of it is my ignorance, but I don't know. If he is that good of a defender, then he's going to be beloved because that's what they need. They need it.
Which guard are they going to trade?
Did Fred say he's critical of Acme?
He is, though. He does not like Karnisovas and Eversley. But he still always sees the brightest side of the Bulls for what they are.
What guard do you think they're going to trade?
I read something over the weekend. What did KC say, that they're like talks continue for Kobe, but it's more likely that Io gets dealt?
That's what KC said, and KC's the most plugged in reporter when it comes to the Bulls.
No doubt about that.
That's not just words, you guys. That's like real.
Do you understand where I'm coming from, Tyler?
Yeah.
When I said I think he does get a lot of bad pub because they stink at their jobs, but zoom in on this trade. I don't know if there's truly a downside to this trade.
I agree with you in that sense. My problem is I want this team to lose this year. I want them to tank. I want them to try to get a draft pick, to try to pick a lane, because I do think, for what Fred was saying, like, there is some credence to it, especially defensively. This team was a mess defensively, and it has been for years. I think Isaac Okoro gets them a little bit closer to winning than Lonzo Ball does. Lonzo Ball's a nothing right now.
Right.
An absolute zero. Even when he does play, he's fine out there, but you know he's not going to play many games. I just think that this gets you a little bit closer to being where you've been the last 3 years, and that's being in the play-in game. And that is not what this team needs, because I don't know if you guys have been tracking what it's looking like for the draft class next year, but once again, they're saying it is a loaded class, And especially if you can get inside that top 5 or so, there's going to be a superstar level player that you could have be joining your roster.
Marcus in Minneapolis, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Marcus?
Hey, guys. So I changed my tone a little bit from when I first called and spoke to Aki. So, Silvy, you always say, you and Waddle always say you can't tell people how to fan.
Yeah.
I normally agree with that, and I still kind of do. The thing is, when there's Bulls fans, when they make terrible trades and everyone's complaining on Twitter, like the Bulls community on Twitter, and then when the season starts and training camp starts, they're back on the bandwagon. If you're gonna complain and then accept mediocrity, then just stay over there. Because if you're gonna keep spending the money and going to the games, and when they have fanfares, they're going and showing up and wearing their jerseys, they're gonna keep doing what they want to do. And for C-Red Fred, I love his passion for the team, but come on, man, like him making calls like that. They're probably thinking they're doing good. Like they hear him on the radio talking like Okoro's like Caruso. Come on, man, be serious. Like at least, I'll just say this quick, Silvy. At least with Ryan Pace, at least he'll come on and say, "We got to be better. We got to do better." The Bulls are acting. They're coming on and doing press conferences like they're winning 50 games a season.
You're Marcus, thanks.
Us like we're stupid.
No,
Yeah,
I know.
No, that you are correct. Like, don't pretend you're watching something we're not. Right? Like, we're all seeing the same thing, and they are operating like they're so close to winning consistently.
What drives me crazy? The Bulls have always had the victim mentality. They did with Derek. Oh no, if Derek wouldn't have gotten hurt, and yeah, it was a blow, but eventually a team's got to move on and fix it.
Yes.
Oh no, Lonzo. Oh, with Lonzo in the first 35 games, they were in first place, and if Lonzo wouldn't have gotten hurt. Golden State lost Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. They still won a championship after Kevin Durant left the building. Cleveland lost LeBron James twice. Cleveland was the number 1 seed in the East this year. Mm-hmm. Go to the Lakers. The Lakers lost Shaq. They still won with Pau Gasol as their center and Kobe. Good teams find ways to overcome much bigger losses than the Bulls have. What the Bulls do is they bitch and moan for 2 years about the impact of one player. No one ever moves. Miami, how many guys has Miami lost through the years? And does Pat Riley still build it back up and they get back to the finals?
Right.
The Bulls, all they do with Jerry is bitch and moan about their bad luck. When actually the luckiest thing to ever happen is that Portland chose their guy in Sam Bowie instead of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Or that the only reason why they got Derrick Rose in the first place was based on luck.
Of course.
So don't tell me about how unlucky you are because Lonzo got hurt or Derrick got hurt. The good organizations move on in this world.
Yes.
Where was the Thunder 4 years ago? They were a 20-win team.
They built a championship team. That's what they did. They used draft picks to do that. The Bulls don't have any draft picks.
They lost
Silvy?
They lost Harden first, then they lost KD, and then Westbrook.
Yes.
And then now they're the champions.
And they brought in those young guys, and they developed them, and they built them into a championship team.
But you can't lose Lonzo. Oh, God forbid you lose Lonzo. You're never going to win again for 35 games.
It's just... And I was just reading about when they gave him that 2-year extension back in February or whenever it was. And just the crap they were saying about. I mean, you're right. They signed him to trade him. Like, I get it. But it's just, even in the moment, you're thinking, like, what are we doing? Yeah,
great leader.
This is such a great situation for him. Like, stop it.
And I feel bad for him. And he's a nice player, but it's not one that should absolutely just hamstring your organization for years. It's not the case.